Nothing to do.
I'm sorry, you were saying we were not going to fuss?
Hi, welcome back. We're the Book Mavens. I'm Rachel. This is Amanda. And today we're going to be discussing Jane Austen's novel, Emma. So we're going to start off with the first line from Emma before we get into the very active breakdown and discussion.
We do not agree on this book.
But we have come to that's okay.
I think we've come
to agree to disagree.
We have learned, yes, we've accepted each other's opinions.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
After much discussion.
On camera, off camera.
I mean, it's been weeks of this discussion.
It's really funny. All right, here we go. All right, so Emma Woodhouse, handsome, clever, and rich, with a comfortable home and happy disposition, seemed to unite some of the best blessings of existence, and had lived nearly 21 years in the world with very little to distress or vex her. That is a perfect setup.
That's a good setup line for her.
For who she is.
Yep.
You immediately realize that this is someone of privilege. This is somebody who has a high opinion of themselves that's supported by those around her.
With honestly very little life experience. Because if you've had nothing to disappoint or vex you and you're only 21, okay.
She's somebody who hasn't experienced any real hardship, which there are people absolutely in life that go through life that way.
That's a well set up. Well set up first line.
It is.
And it's actually about the main character, which sometimes they're not.
Yeah, there's always the side characters, parents, whatever it may be. All right. She's less likable than other characters. She might be the least. Because she's tremendously flawed. She's not very apologetic about it.
That's true. She's the least likable. I actually even like Fanny Price above her because Fanny doesn't do anything. She's so neutral.
No, but she's too pretentious. And then not.
So is Emma.
But she's in like a way where I kind of giggle about it. Like I think it's kind of funny. Fanny Price is a limp noodle of a character. She does nothing interesting. At least Emma does interesting things. Emma is a more fun book to read than Mansfield Park.
That's true. Emma just meddles. Her fun things are meddling in other people's business.
She has nothing else to do. She's got nothing else to do. Girlfriend has, you know that. We've talked about this. They have nothing to do.
I'm sorry. You were saying we were not going to fuss? It's a different phase. Like with Emma, so Persuasion, you're looking at the long-term ramifications of choices. Like Anne has already matured, and now you're looking at her as this mature self. Sometimes reflecting her younger, more immature self. With Emma, you are seeing the beginnings of that sparking of maturity, these moments of realization, but it ends before you really get to see any of it. Like, did it really change her character in the way that she went forward, which would have made it a much longer book, which was probably not the move. But it's just a very different, moment in this character's life, which I kind of like about the Austen books. You kind of pick up on all these characters at very different moments in their kind of personal journeys of development. And Emma is the one that's the hardest because you're really in these moments with her and you're just like, ugh.
I also think, I think there's a level of reflection here. I think Emma is a character that Austen would have the least amount in common with. So I do think a lot of the things that she puts into Emma are probably criticisms she sees from somebody who's at a lower social status than where Emma is.
That's a great point.
So perhaps, if you're seeing a lot of these character weaknesses, this perhaps is something that Austen saw reflected in those higher echelons of society where she didn't have access.
That's an excellent point, which makes this kind of a parallel more with Mansfield Park. Because we talked about in Mansfield Park, perhaps this is her commentary as someone who's not in this type of family, as the way she sees those people. Perhaps this is her commentary on the way the younger people in those social circles act. The way Mansfield Park was more of a commentary on kind of the same thing, but you just really hones in on one female character, the way she sees them behave.
But I think Emma is very much aware of her social position and the privileges she has versus other people, like Harriet, who doesn't have a lot of choices, and perhaps she is trying to, I know you have feelings about that, but I do think Emma not only is a way to satisfy her idleness and give her a project. Emma is a project-oriented person, which I feel.
But you don't need to treat people like they're a project.
But she has no other outlet for that. That's it. That's all she's got.
I know, but but that doesn't excuse the way she treats Harriet like she's a pet. She talks about her like she's a pet. And I'm over here just like super turned off by that. And shoot, what's his name? Knightley calls her on that from the beginning. Yes. Because this girl's life is not your project. Mm-hmm. And she's just like, oh, ha, 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 ha. And like continues to do what she wants. And then like.
But she does realize that she did wrong.
Eventually.
Pulls herself out of the situation and says, everything I do doesn't seem to be working out. So she removes herself from the situation and she feels badly.
Actually, she does. Okay. There are, for me, kind of like 3 key moments where Emma has these kind of self-reflective things and realizes, wait a second, what did I say? Like, there's the moment where she insults Mrs. Bates. Mm-hmm. There's the moment with she realizes Frank Churchill's engaged, like she's told that news. And then there's the part where she realizes that Harriet's in love with Knightley, but Knightley has... Yeah, that comes first. Harriet tells her she's in love with Knightley, and then she realizes she's in love with Knightley, and then Knightley's in love with her, and it's fine. It kind of all happens together, but like Harriet tells her first. That's how she knows.
Yeah.
Right? So there's kind of these 3 key turning point moments for me, if you will. And the first 2, I really loved the way Austen wrote them because it felt very much like what happens. Because at first, she's just like, take the Frank Churchill one, right? Okay. She's so, like we all do, she's like, well, how could they, and how could he do this, and blah, 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 and like, he couldn't have known that I wasn't in love with him, like, well, like you do, very defensive of herself, and then she goes, well, but hold on, maybe I had a bit to play in this, and like, hold on, let me think about this for a second, like, maybe I had a little bit of a role here, but gosh. But I love that. I think that's very normal. Like, first you're super defensive, and then you realize, like, okay, wait, where was my role to play in this? Mm-hmm. And I really enjoyed that. I found it rather comedic in that circumstance, because she's trying to, like, she's trying to comfort the Westons. Mm-hmm. But she's also, like, super annoyed at him, which I would have been, too. That he did treat her badly.
He did.
He used her poorly. But with my favorite was the one with the Mrs. Bates, where she insults Miss Bates, and Mr. Knightley really
lays into her about
that. Lays into her, and she realizes that she's allowed herself, with a lot of Frank Churchill's influence, to be quite frank, she's allowed herself to like really say things in a very flippant way that she normally would not have. Like, she thinks them, but she would never have said it to her face to wound her like that in front of people without like the comfort level that Frank Churchill allowed in that kind of behavior. They were always putting people down together and like joking about them and laughing at them and that kind of stuff. And she realizes that she doesn't want to be like that. And I think for her, that's the moment where Frank Churchill really loses his sway. Mm-hmm. And like, that's a big turning point for her. And I love the way it was written. I love her internal dialogue. I love that she immediately says, I need to go apologize to Miss Bates.
Yeah. And well, I think as soon as that leaves her mouth.
Yeah, she regrets it. But then she does try to defend herself, like kind of play it off with Knightley, but then immediately.
But Knightley is always her conscience.
True.
He's the one who reminds her and kind of grounds her and reminds her of her social standing in this community, that she is somebody in which people look to, and she needs to be able to set an example. And it doesn't mean just, doing kind of random acts of kindness. And I think he really encourages her to examine how she sees herself. And I think that's very, very important, the role he plays in doing that. And that's not a role that I think as a woman that I would really like a man to play necessarily for me.
I also don't like that that's her romantic partner, is this person who acts like her conscience to put, like, I don't feel this one as much as I like other ones.
So that being said, that's the modern perspective, but I do think somebody like Emma, because I feel Emma lives in a very limited sphere. This is her life. And then in terms of like options, we never see Emma really going to London and experiencing.
She's a big fish in a very small pond.
Right. And so I like Knightley in that role in terms of, like I said, this would never work in a modern environment, but I like this idea because I do think that the way that he talks to her that allows her to self-reflect and become a better person, I do think that that's a valuable relationship. And I do love that he is able to peel back those layers and see her as somebody worthy of love and worthy of his love is important. And I do like that.
Mr. Woodhouse, he's like,
Yeah.
he's like, somebody opened a window and like somebody kept opening the door and he got annoyed and he's like, you should have gruel before bed and you should not eat cake. He's trying to convince him not to eat wedding cake at one point, and I was like, boy, you need to just give up that because people ain't gonna do it. They're gonna have that cake. And he's just like,
But he's somebody who honestly has shaped Emma into being what she is. I mean, she has so much control over her environment. So, I can't really blame her in terms of thinking that she has it right.
I think
because she's given a lot of responsibility.
Yeah. She is the person she was made to be. She's given a lot of adult responsibilities very young. She is seen and expected to behave
She's
as the woman of the household.
For a lot of the decisions that she makes as well. So, I mean, you would think
coddle her a lot about things. And like, you're right. She is the person she was made to be.
I do. I feel that. But I just, person. And that's okay. She doesn't have to be your favorite person. I don't see her I don't see her as someone incapable of change.
True.
She is capable of self-reflection. She's capable of regret and trying to become a better person. I know you wanted her to do more actionable things to make up for the mistakes that she did, like in terms of Harriet. But I do appreciate her level of character growth, and I do like the self-reflection that you see in this book. And I like that she's a different character in a very dramatic way, very different, I think, than the rest of Austen's heroines.
She is. This
is a different
very
perspective.
Unique character in the pantheon of Austen. I just didn't. I mean, she really burned my grits right out of the gate because she talking bad about the farmer because he's a farmer, and I was like.
See, now you made it personal.
I did. She made it personal.
I did. I don't take it personal.
I'm the child of farmers. And I'm from a farming community. And like her just distaste for him, like he was. And this is my thing. Like Harry.
I just don't even think that it was distasteful. I think she just thought that she could make a more advantageous marriage for Harriet. So she was very dismissive. So I don't think she hated him. She was just dismissive. I don't think he was beneath her notice.
Right, but he's beneath her notice for reasons that are ridiculous. Because even Knightley says, like, he's one of the best people I know, blah, 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 blah. And she's like, oh, but, like, she just refuses to even, she wouldn't even, like, look at the situation before she just determined that she knew better.
She put herself on a path where she is going to just plow forward regardless of what she hears from everybody else. But see, that's the whole point. If Emma just said, oh, okay, well, he must be great, you would have no book. Like, the whole thing is about development. It's about her realizing that she's not perfect, that she's a flawed individual, and she's capable of mistakes and making up for those mistakes and earning forgiveness from those people who needed to forgive her.
I think it's a little bit of an all's well that ends well kind of book.
Well, that's fine.
Because it's like, I mean,
there were still interesting things.
Because here's the thing, she doesn't actually, in the end, the person whose life I think that she messed with the most would be Harriet.
Yeah, but the thing is, you have so much sympathy for Harriet, and I think
but here's the thing, Harriet is
she's an idiot.
She's a very persuadable. But here's the thing, if you want to talk about the situation that Emma has been put in, Harriet has been brought up not knowing her background. She's been brought up at this school basically as a ward of the school. She's had very limited social interactions. And then she meets this person who everybody tells her is so socially high above her.
Well,
and blah,
she
blah,
is.
blah. Like, she's put in a position that she's supposed to be in awe of Emma. And then Emma kind of takes that position like, yes, you should be kind of in awe of me. And like, so, our deep friendship, whatever. Like, I think Harriet basically gets befuddled and confused by the situation that she's thrown into with Emma.
Perhaps, but then
she gets out of her depth really quickly.
She does, but then to aim as high as Knightley from a social standard is ridiculous.
But here's the thing, Emma encouraged her that she should.
Not Knightley.
She's also,
ever.
They thought they were talking, just because there was confusion, they thought they were talking about the same person. but they weren't.
Right.
Emma never clarified, and Harriet didn't clarify either. Like, I think they both made an error there in not clarifying, but like, I'm not going to excuse either one of them on that one, but like, they each genuinely thought they were talking about a different person.
Yeah.
And so Emma does encourage her. They should have clarified, but Emma did encourage her to think that was appropriate. Now, I think this is another book full of like wonderfully written misinterpretation of intentions, because there's a moment where Harriet is like, or Emma's like, yeah, Mr. Knightley keeps kind of taking Harriet off to talk, and then like she's like, maybe he does care for her, and then later he's like, I was checking her out for Robert Martin, just like talking to her, and then I was like, yeah, I agree with him, she seems like a really solid sort of girl, and like, and Emma's like, oh, okay, I see it now. This is another one where, guys, communication is key, is a big takeaway from Jane Austen's work. You want to avoid a lot of misunderstandings. People should just talk to each other. We don't. Hence
but this
the books.
You have to have some kind of conflict somewhere. I mean, there has to be.
I mean, that's what
you
makes
wouldn't
a
have
story.
anything to read.
But, I mean, but in real life, let's just all talk to each other.
Not reflective of real life.
No, that's true.
Austen had nothing. Like, she would not have existed. She didn't know anybody could have existed that way.
But I was gonna say, but in the end, it's Knightley who kind of allows Harriet that opportunity to reconnect with Robert Martin from the beginning. It's not Emma. Knightley makes that possible, which I found I liked.
Because he has a relationship with the farmer,
right? And
Emma has never met this man. I mean, she's
yet
very
another reason
judgy
why she's judging him, and she
about it. But I mean, I think yes, she looked at Harriet as a project, but I do think it was well intentioned. She was trying to put her as high up in society as she could, and I think that that's something that she thought was a real boon to somebody like Harriet, and most people in that situation would consider that.
But I'll say this: but all she did was really cause Harriet a lot of heartache, because
but that wasn't her intention. That wasn't her intention.
Doesn't make it not what happened. Like
but you're somebody in a previous book who's big on intentions. Her intentions
but here's my
were
thing.
good.
Like, she took a lot of public dismissal and a lot of public insult from the Eltons as a result of this. She had a lot of heartache about Robert Martin. She has a lot of heartache about Knightley and like kind of getting put back in her place by society. Like, Harriet bears a lot of the emotional cost of Emma's actions. But I did like at the end the way that Austen wrote about how relationships naturally change. When she's kind of concluding Harriet and Emma's line, and like Harriet has, Knightley's the one who told her that they decided to get married, Robert Martin and Harriet. And then she talks about how they become able to be in each other's company and to friendly speak to each other, but they're never as intimate as they were, and that they just kind of naturally fall out of each other's sphere. And I think that's I thought it was a very well written way of what really happens in life sometimes. Like, sometimes friends, this happens a lot, I feel like. In high school, you're just convinced that you're going to keep up with all of these people, and then when you graduate, you just like, it just naturally falls away with a lot of things, like the way your life, because the way the current of your life moves. And I liked the way that she ended Harriet and Emma's story that way, because that's true. You may be really close to some people at certain moments of your life, but that doesn't mean that they're always going to have that closeness. And the way that it just kind of sort of naturally ebbs apart, I found very realistic and very compelling the way she wrote it. And it is nice to see that Harriet gets taken on this kind of tornado of a whirlwind experience, but then settles still happily with Robert Martin. She really does care about him, I think. And he for her, clearly, despite all the meddling. But in terms of humorous characters, the Mrs. Elton,
she's funny.
She's funny because she is as pretentious as Emma. She's equally as pretentious as Emma, I would say. And
her reflections on everyone.
That's what I say. It's like, I like that. I like the way that characters are brought into Emma's life as a way to like mirror her behavior back to her, for her to see like, oh wait, that's incredibly awful. You shouldn't do that, or I shouldn't be like that. I just enjoy that. Like, Frank Churchill is like the really open, awful. He says things. I don't get why Jane likes Frank. I really don't.
I don't understand
he's kind of
Churchill and Jane Fairfax's relationship whatsoever.
I don't get it because he's immature. I don't get that. I think I called you or something. Anyway, I was like reading about it.
It makes me feel like Jane Fairfax is not this angel that everybody makes it. That she has to have some kind of shallowness in that they have
Yeah.
come together.
Or maybe you love who
But
you
I like
love.
that.
I don't know.
But I like that in terms of why, like this level of competition between Emma and Jane Fairfax, and like why she just kind of like
she doesn't like her because they're meant to be. Yeah, they're meant to be.
But it makes me feel like it's just another like this undercurrent of perhaps Jane Fairfax isn't such a great person, and so they're her and
I don't
Frank
know that
Churchill.
I don't think it's not that she's not a good person. I think Emma doesn't like her because Jane is not in awe of her.
No, which is fine, but Jane Fairfax is such a character.
I do want to get to know her more. Like,
you don't know any, but that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
like
you know
you have to think that there hasn't been something between her and Frank Churchill.
I respect that she has such a strong relationship with her aunt and grandmother, and that she gives them a lot of attention and deference. I respect that a lot. Mm-hmm. I understand she's very beloved by the Dixons and the mom and dad. Darn. The Dixon is the daughter who got married.
I remember. I forget.
But anyway, I see she's clearly just comfortable with the people she's comfortable with, right? She doesn't ever really open up to Emma, which is why they never really get like there. She's just very shy and hesitant, and that annoys Emma greatly. I do love their kind of silent competition with each other. And then Jane can't stand her because Frank was using her to like. That's again. That man is obviously throwing this woman around in your face, and he's making disparaging comments about Jane to Emma and stirring the pot about the whole Dixon Triangle thing.
He's so yucky.
I don't like him.
Frank Churchill is a very annoying character.
He's supposed to be the lovable rake of this book. I don't like him.
I don't really find any
shallow.
of the rakes to be lovable, but at least before things are revealed, like Willoughby is at least fun to read about. There's nothing fun about Frank Churchill.
Yeah, he's just kind of icky and talks bad about people, and he's always so disrespectful of his father. Like,
yeah,
I don't like that. I don't like it. I'm not a Frank Churchill fan.
Who is? Who loves Frank
That's true.
Churchill?
Anybody? Audience, if you like him, tell us why, because we don't see it.
It.
Now, here's my interesting parallel that I came to this week.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Once upon a time, Amanda watched a miniseries called Our Mutual Friend, which is based on Charles Dickens's last completed work.
Oh, God.
And I did not like it. I hated it because there's this one character, Bella. Mm-hmm. She's one of the central characters, and she annoys me. She treats people bad. She's young. She's immature, blah, blah, blah. Fast forward, college-age Amanda, looking for an escape from academics, goes on a journey through the classics, gets it out of the college library and reads it, falls in love with it. Because I recognized the character growth that Bella had throughout the story. It really is a story about a young girl maturing with under life experiences, as well as the other characters in there. Because that's kind of the hints. Our Mutual Friend. There are multiple storylines tied together by this one person. Mm-hmm. It's a very good book, and now I love it. It's one of my favorites. Mm-hmm. Mayhaps with more time, Emma will. I'll be able to see Emma more kindly and less annoyedly than I do now. I did not enjoy the book. Okay, actually, that's not true. The first part of the book really drug for me. I was like, come on. I felt like we were really working Frank Churchill's coming for a long time. Like, boy.
There's not a lot going on.
Yeah. It was
Small
just like,
hamlet.
It was a lot.
Yeah.
But then stuff started happening. Like, Frank Churchill showed up, Jane Fairfax came for a visit, Mr. Elton got married. Like, then stuff started moving, and I was like, okay, now I'm here for it. Like, it did take it a little while to warm up. And then towards the end of the book, I was like, okay, I'm here for this. Let's do it. Like, I will confess that. And mayhaps with more time, Emma will, I don't know.
It doesn't necessarily have to grow
mature in my estimation.
I mean,
I just didn't. I'm not saying it's not a good story. I'm not saying that the character doesn't show growth. I'm not saying that it wasn't well written. I'm just saying that for me personally, it's not a type of story that I find terribly appealing. So, am I glad I read it? Yes, absolutely. Do I think you need to read it? That's tough because unlike the other ones, I don't feel like there's actually a good movie version. An actual, like,
like
a true to the book one. Like, I don't think there's a mini series or a movie that gives you the Austen feel. Not like a modern retake, but like a.
I I don't know. The one with Gwyneth Paltrow does okay. I'm just going to be honest. I don't love Gwyneth Paltrow, but I like the adaptation. I could see other actresses in that role, in that particular screenplay, and everything else who I would have liked better because I just don't personally like Gwyneth Paltrow. Sorry. You know.
They did.
But I loved Jeremy Northam.
Yeah.
I loved, oh my God, what's her face? The Australian actress who plays Harriet.
I know who you're talking about. I liked her as Harriet. She's probably my favorite Harriet.
Absolutely. You know, so everybody else is fine. I just didn't like Emma. To me, Emma, because you can see her internal dialogue better on the page, plays out better. You don't get as much depth from the character off the page on the screen.
Yeah, that's where I'm torn.
And I can see that criticism. Yeah. I think that's a fair criticism.
That's where I'm torn. Yeah, because this one, you're right. Almost all of her like true moments of growth, like the story is really driven by internal dialogue, and that just does not come across on the screen.
Well, everything with Knightley is externalized, so you can really see all of the machinations like that he's doing in terms of the plot. It's there. Hers, everything is just her reevaluating herself, and that's very internal. So that is definitely more of a book thing. And I think that's why Emma's
the only way for you to get that in there would be you'd have to change the book significantly. You'd have to have her like keeping a journal or something, and you know that's just not really in the book. So like I'm a little bit torn on this one in terms of should you read it, should you watch it.
You're coming at it from such a different place.
That's true.
You're coming at it from somebody who saw the films first.
True.
See, I'm a big believer in reading the material before seeing a screen adaptation.
But did you see? That's a question because the movies would have come out. You said this was last summer. You did this project.
I've read Emma before.
Okay, so you saw Emma. So you read Emma before.
I read Emma before I saw the films. Yes.
That is a very different perspective. So do you think you should read it?
I think you should read it because it gives you a different perspective in terms of what's playing out on the screen. So you can literally be watching and where she's kind of like staring off into space, thinking about something, and actually know what she's thinking about for those things. But that is a common problem you see with any book adaptation, is that a book is just going to give you so much more in terms of what's happening inside characters than you're going to get on screen. It can be very, very difficult to successfully bring something off the page on the screen. And with Austen, because there is a lot of self-reflection, that can be really difficult. And for somebody where you're looking at a lot of internalized development, like with somebody like Emma, I think it is important to be able to read it on the page. And then you can kind of fill in those gaps from what you see on the screen.
I wonder if that's a problem that Austen often has, that like, you know, Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, for example, is trying to address, that because there's so many movie versions of them, that most people, that is their exposure, they're gonna come across the movie before they come across the books, really, for most people. Maybe that is the new challenge of the classics in terms of like their enduring legacy, is like how do you draw them back to the original text when there's so many other competing versions that you could watch and then feel like you know the story, like I did going into this.
But when we talk about modern adaptations, Clueless is my favorite of all time Austen adaptations on the screen. Amanda does not like Clueless. I love Clueless. There's a lot of nostalgia there for me.
I think it's a well-made movie. I just, like I said, this particular story does not appeal to me.
Which is fine. Done with you.
Yeah. I'm going to sit this part of the video out. Continue, Rachel.
No, I love Clueless because it was fun. It was a lot of fun. And Emma is a character that you absolutely could pull out and put her in a modern place as somebody who just comes from money, in terms of what kind of privileges kind of come along with that, and to see her taken down some notches and do a lot of self-reflection. I think Clueless did a better job showing the self-reflective parts of Emma, because they allow for a lot of kind of like voiceover things where you really can like understand her processes that they don't do in like more true to page movie versions. And so I like that, but I loved so many elements to Clueless. I have to admit,
it is probably one of the most clever modern adaptations of a book.
Incredibly clever.
It is so clever.
But it's just so cute. They do such a good job showing Emma's like level of idleness and why she is the way she is, and it comes across so clear in Clueless, and it's illustrated through Josh, the stepbrothers, the Knightley character. But like how he talks about it, you took somebody even more clueless than yourself to come and create a project out of her. You know, he's very clear. They're very good at sticking with that, about him really kind of putting her face into what she's doing, and her ability to laugh it off until it all starts falling apart and she realizes how important those things are. It's just fascinating. Her relationship with the father, it's just so well done, and why, once again, they just really illustrate how you could end up with somebody like Emma. But like with the teachers, she does it for personal reasons, just to improve her grades. To get these two teachers to fall in love was purely self-motivated for herself. But you can see through all of it where she genuinely starts to care about what those teachers are going to do and how they're going to end up together, and finds it truly adorable.
But we digress.
Let's see. Last line. Let me find it. Here we go. All right. But in spite of these deficiencies, the wishes, the hopes, the confidence, the predictions of the small band of true friends who witnessed the ceremony were fully answered in the perfect happiness of the union. So closing it out with Mr. Knightley and Emma's marriage, that everyone, their small band of friends, were very happy for them, which is a lovely ending.
I like it.
I mean, many of her
It's
books
actually a
end
good
in a
one.
marriage.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so there you go.
I'd say most of them.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, there's this criticism a lot of people have about Austen. She only wrote what she knew. She had very little knowledge of what happened after a marriage. So makes sense you'd only write the relationships you see and can reflect upon.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. I mean, she'd be around other married folk, but...
I mean, that's basically the whole Hallmark movie premise, though, too.
True enough. They
So
kiss,
clearly
everyone smiles,
So clearly
and
it works
that's
for
it.
people.
There's
We're
no,
all like, okay.
There's no 5 years later
I think that's because
situation.
that's like when the real challenge starts, is like when you actually trying to like merge your life with another person's, and they're like,
It's a little bit more complicated.
That seems hard. Let's not depict that. Let's talk about this part.
All right. Well, thanks for watching our breakdown on Emma. Next week, we'll be talking about Persuasion, the final novel written by Jane Austen, and the last of the 6 that we've covered for this Falling for Austen series. So join us next week. Like and subscribe, and we'll see you then.
Bye. There you go. That's Emma.